Teachers of Reddit, what is the craziest thing you have seen on a student's social media? Well, I don't follow any students on Facebook, but one of my coworkers deals with kids in a different way and is more tuned in on their parents on social media. Told me a elementary schooler's mom went on Facebook Live, naked from the waist down, spread eagle telling people to look at her house pussy. Mom is a cokehead. Fighting videos like him talking fighting and teachers in the background watching the whole thing happen without doing a thing to separate it. Some kids were so ecstatic to show me to what a weird world. We used to have fights in the boys' locker room before football practice and gym all the time. Usually one coach would sit there and watch to make sure we didn't go too far. Looking back on it now, it's unbelievable they let us do that. Kind of wished they stopped it because I broke my pinky finger and didn't want to tell my mom. So now it's not that functional. Not me but my wife. A student posted a suicide note on Snapchat. Another student showed it to my wife. She ran to the front office and called 911. Kid was home with his mom and had overdosed in his room. Kid was taken to a hospital and survived. Saved his life. Not a teacher, but some kid at my teen school posted naked pictures of him being with another student's mom. Both were naked in the photo. Small town, word travels to everyone. The mom and her husband got a divorce and they all moved out of town. Was a wild ride in our little shitter town. Edit: I should clarify that the kid had just turned 18 at the time of the photo. A few years ago, a school near where I teach had an epidemic of kids exchanging nudes. From stories that I heard, the kids were trading them like baseball cards and students that didn't participate were harassed until they did. If I remember correctly, I think almost the entire football team was kicked off the team and many students throughout the school were charged with possessing child p. Not exactly social media originally, but it definitely ended up there. I teach high school and the students were talking about a middle school student who wrote a novel. It turned out to be an extremely graphic fan fiction of two of the male middle school teachers. The girl that wrote it was in 7th grade. We are talking about full-on novel, around 200 pages and 13 chapters. Supposedly it is only book 1 in the series. The crazy thing is, my students showed me one paragraph before I knew what it was, and it was hands down the best technical writing of any student I've ever had. Again, I teach high school. She was in the 7th grade. Unbelievably well written, and unbelievable a 7th grader was able to describe things with such disturbing detail. I have a girl that is 14 and writes a lot of amazing creepypasta stories. Like this girl has spookiness down. I love the work she does. Sadly, she had detailed plans on a message board about slaughtering her little sister and her adopted family and possessed the means to do it in person. I work in a mental institution that's also a school. Either way, she's super cool. She's one of my favorites. Hopefully she doesn't get out and actually kill someone, but you never know with kids like her. Not me, but my fiancé used to work the IT department of a school. Sometimes they got reports from students or teachers that suspect there's something on a student's school iPad. All I can say is, students, for the love of God, please stop taking nudes on school equipment. These teachers at my school found a kid's meme page, and keep in mind was a preppy stuck-up school. Anyway, the meme account had the usually slightly edgy kind of content, but the school acted as if it were a hate crime. Parents were called in. There was a whole school assembly on social media and the appropriate content that should be posted. The school went as far as suspending the kids behind the account for 1 week and giving detentions to every kid who liked the memes. The whole ordeal was just stupid and left me wondering if teachers even cared about the kids who were very clearly smashed on drugs. The sad truth about prep/private schools, they care too much about their religion and uniforms and don't actually pay attention to the bigger issues like students with anxiety and depression. 8th graders posted his wake and bake session on Snapchat. Someone showed the dean and now he has it saved on his phone. For the rest of the year that kid was the most straight-laced dude. Literally think the dean was blackmailing him into being a better student, lol. I had a student tell me that he had to go out and look for his roommate's body and therefore would not be in class, and that his roommate had been killed in a kayaking incident. Now, when a student dies, we are told. At some past institutions this was not the case. For example, if you had a student from your course commit suicide, you were just supposed to act like nothing was wrong and that nothing had happened and that they had never been there. So quite honestly was like, okay, this might be true, or dude might be lying. It was a few years ago, and so I got on Facebook, found the student, and identified the roommate. Unfortunately it was true, and fortunately he was not the one that found the body, and the announcement came out slightly thereafter. I was able to excuse the absence without further evidence, which is always a nice thing to be able to do for somebody. The crazy thing, though, was that his roommate's quote was, "What doesn't kill me makes me stronger." It was uncomfortable. So, in my school district, teachers can lose their jobs for following students on social media. That being said, sometimes a student will get worried about something that they see posted and will bring me a screenshot of it. So, due to that, the craziest thing I've ever seen was one of our students pointing a gun at the camera and threatening to turn the walls of the school red with blood. I took the student who reported it to the front office and made a full report to administration. Never saw the kid who posted that again. Not a teacher, but at my friend's school, a couple of students broke in, used up all the dry ice and the fire extinguishers and posted a picture to Instagram with the caption, "It's Christmas." They were expelled, but I'm not sure if they face legal charges because the legal system in my country is shit. I stay a mile away from all my kids and parents on social media. I am not going down for stalking or something because Karen wants an easy payday. Not a teacher, but in my high school there was a guy who posted a dimly lit video of him committing suicide. His friends reported the post to a teacher, who called the police and an ambulance. The responders arrived at the guy's house to find him completely okay. Turns out, he posted a video he found on the internet that looked enough like him. He didn't try to commit suicide. They took him to the hospital anyway to evaluate him. He stuck to his story until the teacher rated him out. It was a close-knit alternative school where the students were close to and on a first-name basis with teachers to try and get kids to see the school as a community/go to classes regularly. This same kid threw a Halloween party earlier that same year where 100 kids showed up and hung out outside a snazzy building, only to realize after midnight that all of his excuses about why we couldn't go on amounted to the fact that he didn't even live there. Weird guy. I wonder what he's up to now. Not me, but my GF. Principal called all teachers to talk about something a couple of students had done. They were, I assume, BF and GF, and stayed in the classroom during break. She went down on him, with one hand on and the other filming for social media Snapchat, I guess. The security camera caught it too. Edit: I said recess instead of break. My bad. Thanks for correcting me. The kids are 15, 16 yo. Not a teacher, but the teacher found out about it and had to deal with it. Some girl wrote a long and detailed multi-part fanfic about some guys in the school, using full real names. This happened in my school too, except I was one of the guys in the fanfic, which was weird. Everyone found out and she apparently burnt the book she had kept writing stuff in. Obligatory: not a teacher, but my old high school has a surprisingly good/wholesome memeg. Some of the younger teachers started submitting memes about their coworkers, and when I met them at a bar once they were dying laughing and bragging about how funny their students are. Not a teacher, but in year 10 my teacher reported this girl who was always quiet for having a fully lewd Belle Delphine-esque Instagram and Patreon. When I was in graduate school, I was living with a cop as a roommate. One time, I came home and saw her clearly on one of my students' Facebook accounts. He had posted pictures of himself in the dorm doing illegal stuff, alcohol and weed, so expected illegal stuff for a college kid. But it was incredibly awkward for me because she told me they were investigating him and then I got to see him in class the next day. I worked a be careful what you put on social media lesson into what we were doing, but he ended up getting kicked out of the dorms not long after, and I'm not sure if they pursued anything else. This isn't really crazy, but, oh man, I stressed myself out so much in that week. I felt bad for him because she was talking about nailing him to the wall for it. But I also felt like I couldn't openly warn him. And yes, this story is old because students were still on Facebook and weed was still a fairly serious charge. Also, I was awkward and young, and today I think I would just openly warn the student. Lol. A friend of mine who is a teacher found a live stream of his science class. I'm more interested in why would a teacher stalk their students on social media in the first place. When I worked as an RA, sometimes we would look at students' social media only if it was public, when we were concerned about mental states, etc., and thought they might be at risk. All in an attempt to beat my teacher, who currently has 3 more karma than me. I need to beat him. When I was in middle school, there was a trend where we made fake Facebook events and invited a bunch of people. One time my brother or one of his friends made one that was called Gay/Lesbian Orgy in Friends' Name's House and invited a bunch of people. He invited one of my friend's girl around 15 years old that went to a different school and barely knew the people involved in the event, and she clicked she would attend without paying much attention to the name. A few days later one of her teachers approached her after class to have a very awkward conversations along the lines of, "I know you might be struggling with figuring out your sexuality, but taking part in things like that could be very dangerous, etc." My friend was very confused. I was teaching 8th grade English in a low-income/high crime area. We had one student who was really hard. He was loud, obnoxious, rude and downright mean to most of the staff and other students. For some reason I really liked him and he felt the same. Always respectful to me and often helped me keep the class in line. The other teachers/students would always make comments about how we will see him up for murder one day and I would stick up for him. He came from a really bad home life most were not fully aware of. Anyway, he friended me on Facebook at the end of the school year and I accepted. About 4 years later I see an update posted by him. He posted quite a bit from a couple nights before that simply showed a gun and bullets with the caption, "Some bitches are going to pay. Getting my turf back," or something like that. Anyway, long story short, he was involved in a drive-by and killed a 17-year-old kid who was at a rival's party. He was not the intended victim. Anyway, when the news ran the story and showed his Facebook post as what helped the police find him, my blood ran cold. I wish I would have seen the post earlier or could have done something. He was sentenced to 20 years since they couldn't prove who pulled the trigger. Still makes me sad. I really thought he would break the cycle of poverty and prison that has run through his family line forever. Not me, but it happened to an acquaintance of mine when he was in high school. He's not a teacher either. One of the students in his class went missing. Parents were freaking out because it was unusual for their kid to disappear without a trace like that. A week later the cops found his decapitated head. Cops never found the rest of his body though. My acquaintance tells me the whole school was freaking out about what happened. Apparently the guy was a small-time drug dealer and something happened. In my second year of teaching I had my kid in my class whose Facebook profile picture was him holding a gun pointed at the camera. Okay, maybe doesn't sound super crazy, but mind you I taught 5th grade and his mom was his Facebook friend. The scary part was that he was kicked out of school at the end of the year before for bringing a gun to school 4th grade. His mom also thought he was a prophet. I literally spent that whole year wondering if he would bring a gun to school. He was seriously off his rocker and his mom never made him take his meds. Second, not really social media, but I had a student who looked up boys effing their moms on a school-issued Kindle. This kid was only in 4th grade and to make it worse in 3rd grade I had him 2 years in a row, because I looped up he sexually harassed a female student and wrote graphic, disturbing letters. Kid seriously has me worried. Edit kid in first one was in court for shooting someone recently. Poor kid didn't even make it through 9th grade. I'm not a teacher, but my teacher wanted to look at my phone to see a pic of my brother cause he was in her class once and saw a meme with half-naked women. Not a teacher, but a guy I went to school with stole an official police bicycle. It was tied to a pole and he clipped the chain. He posted pictures of him with it to his personal Facebook.